Welcome.
My name is Robert Camp, C-A-M-P. I live in Springdale, Arkansas. And I had the privilege of being a crew chief on one of these in the late 40s and early 50s. I was called back into the service and stationed at Ellington Air Force Base. It was reactivated during the Korean conflict, and our sole purpose was to train foreign navigators, students from foreign countries. And I think we've done a pretty good job. We had 50 of these. 2 of them they used for touch and goes. They were sort of dogs. And the other 48 was divided into 4 flights, and we was in the air all the time. Flown a many miles on one of these things. Never back here.
Of course.
But it was up in the engineer's part. But it's a good airplane, and it's I'm glad there's still a few of these left for people to come and look at. And hopefully there'll be some stories recorded for people who care anymore, and that's debatable. But anyway, this was a good airplane, and old Jimmy Doolittle made this airplane famous when he bombed Tokyo. And that boosted our morale and made a name for himself and a name for this airplane, and this airplane is known all over the world.
What was the average length of one of your training missions? You said it was a training squadron,
yes,
correct?
It was at least 4 hours.
Okay.
I think, if I remember correctly, both wing tanks held 974 gallons of avgas, and you always wanted to have enough fuel to get home. Or if you run into bad weather, you could be diverted somewhere else. But most of them was at least 4 hours. And some of the people who flew in your airplane didn't take care of it. It's sort of like somebody's SUV full of trash. You know, they leave a lot of trash. But it was a wonderful airplane to work on. A wonderful airplane.
Does this aircraft have any idiosyncrasies or peculiarities that you remember?
No, not really. It was straightforward. We had good engines, and when I first started, I was on the engine conditioning crew, and we were right engine specialists. There was 3 of us, and we could pull an engine, swing a new one, and adjust the fuel pressure in a day. But you had to be on your toes, and of course there was a couple of guys there. One was from Eastern Airlines who got called back in, and he was sharp as a tack. So, but anyway, this, like I said before, is a wonderful airplane and part of history.
Do you ever have any emergency situations on those training missions?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Every now and then you might lose an engine, and you'd see the meat wagon and the fire trucks down there waiting for you on the runway, and that would kind of unnerve you. But when you're young, you don't worry too much about it. You know, hey, you're bulletproof, and you're gonna. They'll put it out. You'll walk away. And so far, everybody did that. But yeah, we had a few emergencies. Not so many in our flight, but some of the other flights that weren't maintained as good as ours had emergencies, but no crashes or anything like that. But they did have a place marked off at Ellington for carrier-type takeoff.
Oh, still?
Yes, and a lot of these hot rod pilots didn't have the proper training for that, and they would try to make a carrier takeoff. You had a starting place and a place where you would run out of runway or run out of deck if you were an aircraft carrier. But anyway, they would practice those every now and then, and I used to fly to MacDill Air Force Base. My sister lived in St. Petersburg, and I would talk them into, hey, let's go to Florida this weekend, you know, and I'd visit my sister. And the other guys, they needed flying time, you know, for
Sure.
flying pay. And by the way, I believe I was paid $65 a month to fly, to be on flying status. And little did the Air Force realize that if I'd had the money, I'd have given them $65. I did volunteer 3 times for Korea, and the squadron commander told me the last time, he told me to sit down and shut up. He said I was one of the better crew chiefs,
Yeah.
and he wasn't going to lose me. So,
No, my question was the boys that you trained went off to Korea. Right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
That-
they
yeah.
sure did.
So, any idea of how many
No,
folks you put
no.
through?
No, they were foreign students, and this is where they done their work back here. I think there was 3 radar stations back here, and I rarely got in this part of the airplane. I was in
you were
the
always up
business
front.
end. Yeah,
Because I was not aware of the B-25 being used in other air forces extensively. But I
no,
guess it was.
well, not during. It was just training purposes during the Korean conflict, but of course it was used all over the world during World War II.
Yes, it was.
Had a good reputation.
To good effect.
Yes, yeah, good airplane.
Yeah.
Good airplane.
Yeah.
The engineer's seat was where this is,
Mm-hmm.
with the map light. And like I said, the airplane had been, all the armament had been removed. Boy, they've done a good job on this. That's good. And I remember this, flying at night. You could work your way up to the flight deck and look over at the exhaust
Mm-hmm.
on each engine. And if you could get the flames the same color, you were burning the same amount of fuel in each engine.
That's a good tip.
And even though your mixture controls might not be right on the spec, you could tune those mixture controls and not wear the gasoline out, transferring it from the one wing tank to the other. You know.
I see.
But that's I didn't know I was going to get to look at this.
Wow. That's the only reason we brought it out, sir. Now, you said there was a latch to jettison the ladder down here?
Jettison to jettison that. This had this is it, but it was in one piece.
Oh, I see.
And this has obviously got a hinge there. They made it better. But you would latch this back, jettison this, and then...
Now, you never did that, did you?
Yes, I did, but I don't want you to record it. We had been down there to the Florida State Fair. Had a big time. I visited my sister. Had a few beers. And on the way back, I went to sleep in the flight engineer's seat. And there's a bell. He rang the bell, 3 rings or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a long time ago. And I didn't hear the bell. And he made a piss poor landing and blew a tire. And it woke me up, and I thought, damn, we've had a mid-air collision. I didn't know where we were. And I thought, well, the thing to do is get the hell out of here. And so I raised this, latched it up, jettisoned that hatch, rolled out that airplane on my back with my parachute. And when I hit the ground, I was looking up at that purple map light moving up there. And I had already busted the little chute that pulls the big chute out. Anyway, there I was laying there on the ground, and I'm probably the only one that ever jumped out that close to the ground.
Sir, that's a fantastic
But I
story.
did, and it took me a while. Well, it was embarrassing to have to turn that parachute back into the parachute lock, you know.
I can imagine.
And they look them over, you know. Hey, and the guy, old sergeant said, "Okay, you're gonna have to tell me what the hell you done here." And I told him that what had happened.
Did you get a good laugh out of it?
Oh yeah, yeah, and when I'd walk across the flat line, boy, the people were hollering, you know, wait, there's the one, that's him, he's the one who jumped out.
You're lucky you didn't pick up some kind of an unsavory nickname.
Well, I didn't, but it was but I have jumped out of a beach many times.
That's a great story. I wish you'd give me permission to share that.
Well,
I mean, it was so long ago that, and there's so much like that.
well,
And I would beg your permission that I can share it.
yeah, you can share.
All right.
You can share.
You made my day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I remember laying there on the ground, you know, hey, I'd done everything by the book, how you're supposed to roll out. And I rolled out and hit on my back,
You didn't hurt
looking
you.
up at the back. Oh, no,
That's
hell no.
good.
Hurt my pride. And when I found out that the airplane wasn't moving, we were off the runway. He blew a tire, it hobbled off the runway. And there I was looking up that map light. Map light was doing this, you know, a purple light of some kind. And I thought, oh shit, wow, I've really done it. Anyway, I'm probably the only person out here that's bailed out of one that close to the ground. But I had to turn my parachute in, and they ragged me about that quite a bit.
Well, I think it's just the most precious story I've heard, and I thank you for sharing it and having
Oh,
a sense of humor about it.
Well, it's a pleasure to see this and to see something that still flies. And,
Thank you very much. It means a lot to us, and you can bet everybody back home is going to want to hear that praise from you, and I'll make sure they can.
Good, do that.
They've worked hard.
yeah. And you can tell them you met the old dude that bailed out 3 feet off the ground.
And live to tell about it.
Absolutely. Not real proud of it, but he lived.